We're continuing with the Maimer, Uvachamisha Asar Yom. The Maimer discusses Sukkot, and we ended off yesterday discussing the Rotzin. The last part that we were speaking about was Rotzin, and the Rebbe brings a few proofs from the Gemara that says that a person should learn in a place where he wanted, even though learning is something that is done intellectually. But nevertheless, when he desires that specific place, it Ratzon impacts his intellect. And he brings a dugma, an example to it from Keser. Keser is intermediary between the level of the crown, is intermediate between the Ratzon, the will, the Keser itself is rather the Ratzon. Keser is the Ratzon, and it's an intermediary between the infinite light of God to the animated, to those who are being created. So infinite created beings, and the in-between is the Keser. The Ratzon is the in-between. So if you would to say in levels, you'd say you have an Ein Sof, Keser, and created beings. So what is the position of Keser? Is a Ratzon, intermediary. He writes in line 5, in page Yud Aleph, he writes, Ki Eren Seif hu l'maylo migedol olamis. The infinite light of Hashem is above the world. Uchedeshi savu ilamis, in order to create world, you have to have Ratzon. It's only because you had Ratzon. That's the Keser. Said in the Arizal that Ein Sof shines in Keser. In closeness, unlike the way it shines in Bina, since the Keser is the Memutza, the intermediary between Ein Sof and the created beings, as we just said. So therefore, it's the first step, and therefore there's nothing that's closer than this. That's why Ein Sof shines in Ratzon, in Keser, in closeness. Mamshich b'maimer shegam bechinas chachum meirens v'kiru mokim. And the teaching of Tarizal that also shines, Ein Sof shines in chachma, also in closeness. So infinite shines in wisdom with closeness. He does it in a very close type of a relationship or transmission. Chachma is not like Keser. Keser is the Memutza, not the intermediary, not the Chachma. It's the first step, the beginning of the animated. The created beings are those who were created, those who were formed. So why instead of shines in Chachma with closeness? It says because Chachma is bitul, it's nullification. Bechinas bitul v'zeh ensof. Ensof shines in Chachma because of its nullification. It says in Tanya that Ensof is the only echad haemes, is the one, is the oneness of truth, oneness of truth, echad haemes. So when we say Echad HaEmes, the Ein Sof is Echad HaEmes, he means to say that the existence of Ein Sof is the only true existence. The reality of Ein Sof is the only true reality. Because of the nullification of Chochmah. But what is the epitome of Chochmah? What is the content that Chochmah has? What does it have within it? Ein Sof. So completely nullified to the Ein Sof. So much so that you cannot differentiate between Chochmah and Ein Sof. Because of its ultimate nullification, so therefore, Ein Sof shines, radiates in Chochmah B'Kiyuv Mokim. So we have two levels. We have Keser and we have Chochmah. Keser, we said, Ein Sof shines in Keser closely. Why? Because it's an intermediary between Ein Sof and the created beings, the animated. Why does it shine closely in Chochmah? Because of its Bittul. Okay, so that's how it explains it. V'shleima, in line 27, he writes, V'shleima, Shinyan Kiruv Mokim B'Keser Chochmah, this closeness in infusion, or the closeness in giving, when it comes to Keser and Chochmah, B'shnei Fanim, it's being done in two ways. B'shnei Fanim. Tzad HaMatzil, Mitzad HaNetzolim. The animate from the aspect of the emanator and the emanated. The initiation from going from above, heavenward down. No, going from heaven down, and going from below. Either going higher levels going below, or from the lower levels going up. Keser is in a state of closeness because Ein Sof HaMatzil Asher Bo, because the Ein Sof dwells in it, resides in it, and that's happening from above. So he says like this: Keser and Chochmah, they're both receiving from Ein Sof closely. Okay? So what's the difference between the two in terms of receiving? So he says the difference is melama lamata melamata lamal, meaning Keser receives from Ein Sof, or I should say differently, Keser is closely to the Ein Sof, is receiving closer to the Ein Sof. Why? Because the Ein Sof comes down to Keser. The Ein Sof is investing itself in Keser. That's melamalo lamata. Ein Sof is lamalo, Keser is lamato. So Ein Sof is now giving to Keser, and therefore there's a closeness between the two. Comes Chochmah, it's also closeness. So what's the difference? Chochmah is close to the Ein Sof because of its bittul. So meaning Chochmah is going upward. Comes to Keser, Keser receives from Ein Sof, so it's milamah lamata, Keser is receiving. Comes to Chochmah, Chochmah is also receiving, but Chochmah is it's initiating its nullification. Chochmah is being nullified to the Ein Sof, and therefore it's closely to the Ein Sof, but it's milamata lamala. It's a different type of relationship. They're both close relationship. They're both receiving closely, Kiruv Mokim. But one is milamala lamata and one is milamata lamala. You get it? Because if you look at the Arizal statement, the Arizal said on both of them, on Keser and Chochmah, the statement Kiruv Mokim, that there's closeness between Ein Sof and Keser, there's closeness between Ein Sof and Chochmah. So what's the difference between the two? So first of all, we explained why they're close. So we said the Keser is very close because it's intermediary between the Ein Sof and the created beings, the Rotzin. Without Rotzin, you cannot create worlds. Hashem created the world with Rotzin. He wanted it. And Chochmah is close to the Ein Sof because of its bittul. So what's the difference between Keser and Chochmah in terms of their relationship with the Ein Sof? So he says the difference is the Kesser would receive because of the Ein Sof is invested in Kesser, and Chochmah is receiving closely because Chochmah is nullified, meaning Chochmah is initiating something. The Bittul is mitzad Chochmah, it's from the aspect of Chochmah.
Amen.
Now we said in Bina, it's a different type of relationship. It's already being downgraded. Richuk, mirochuk kavayin early. It's from afar. What happens in Bina? Why is it berichuk? He says because Bina, it's not just an idea, it's tfisa. Tfisa meaning you grasp it, you understand it very well. When it comes to Ein Sof, it says no machshava can be tfisa, can grasp the Ein Sof. Although Hashem wanted Bina to exist, but the will, the desire is that you should have understanding, you should grasp it. Now, since no thought can grasp Hashem, in the Kiddush, in order for Bina to exist, it has to be from afar. When it comes to Kiruv, the closeness, there's no way to grasp it. And that's why wisdom, understanding is one is Re'iyah, one is Shmiya. Guess what? Which one is which? Chochmah will be seeing and Bina will be hearing. What's why? Re'iyah is Kiruv. Shmiya b'chinas Richuk. You can hear things further than you can see them. I mean, if you're in the desert, you can hear something that's so far because there's no abstractions to the noise.
Well, look at lightning and thunder. You hear the thunder before you see the lightning, although you think it would be the other way around.
No, but they're talking about something that is louder. If let's say your vision is limited to 1,000 feet, right? So if someone would scream from 2,000 feet, you'd still be able to hear him, but you won't be able to see him.
True.
That's what he is saying. In order to have a Re'iyah is Kiruv. Re'iyah is closeness. And Shmiya is Richuk. Not only that, we talk about geographical distance. But he's saying over here that when you see something, it's close to you, meaning it takes a closer. You're looking at a picture. It's like the interest is greater when you look at something. It becomes close to you. Shmiya is, on the other hand, richuk. So, if you see something, you see an incident that took place, you might be more excited about it or more impacted by it because you saw it. But if you hear about an incident, I'll give you an example. An airplane crashed, God forbid.
Yeah.
Okay? The guy that was in the airplane, he was saved somehow. He comes out. He tells you the story. He said, I heard about it in the news. What's the difference between the guy who were there seeing it, or the guy who was there inside, or the guy that heard about it? The guy that saw it it's alive by him. It's close to him.
Yeah.
He leaves it. But the guy who's heard about it, he heard about it. Fine. So it doesn't impact him as much because it's rochak to him. It's far from him.
It's like 9/11. I could see from where I was. I could see the building burn. I didn't see the plane hit. But
Right. So your experience is much more real than my experience because I didn't see it.
Right.
I saw it maybe on the screen,
Right.
but I didn't see. But the people who were there, their experience is even greater than yours because they were actually in the building and they ran out of the building. They saw the smoke and they saw the.
Right.
The point is that anything that we see, it has a greater impact on us. So but it's closer to us. Things that we hear about, you hear about a story. Tell a story that happened 2 years ago. It happened 6 months ago. There's a different reaction to it, a different impact.
Right.
You hear about Baal Shem Tov's story. If you live it, it's a different story.
Right.
If you see it, if you were in the wagon. When it comes to Shmiya, even though you hear it, and you believe that this is so, it's still not the same as seeing because seeing is Mikorev. Hearing is from far. Seeing is close. Another point of seeing, when you see something, no one can refute what you saw.
Right.
What you saw is what you saw. Somebody's going to come and tell you, no, it never happened, you didn't know what you were seeing. So I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Even 1,000 people will come to you. I saw what I saw.
Right. When you hear something, maybe yes, maybe no.
Right. It says by seeing, it becomes united. The person who sees something, it becomes united with it. Same way that there is no way to refute the one who saw something. How much more so you cannot refute if you were united with something. You saw it and you became one with it. And that's the idea of Chochmah. Chochmah is Re'iyah, is seeing. Shaken Shmiya, and that's why there is nullification Chochmah, because it's seeing. You become one with the Ein Sof. Mashenkin Shmiya, Shmiya is something that you can refute it. He said one thing, and then the other guy said something else. That's why they have a political debate, because you can say, "Oh, you're saying this," and the other guy says, "No, you're lying. It's not true."
We got the Gemara.
Yeah. It doesn't become united with him. And that's the idea of Richuk. And that's in Shmir. Now, what was the next thing about Eitz Chaim? The teaching of Rabbi Chaim Vital, which is the Talmud of the Arizal. What did he say? After Bina comes the Midos, the emotive attributes. So Ein Sof shines in Midos. How does it shine in Midos? He said, through a window. From Bina to Zeranpin, it goes through a window, meaning it's even less of revelation. When it shines down, when sun is radiating, when the sun is shining, the light of the sun, when it shines on the earth, it's with expansion, broadness. When it shines in the house, the sun goes through the house. You're only getting through the windows. You're not getting the full impact of the sun. When the light is contracted and it's not expanding in all the corners of the house, in all the sides of the house. Only through the window. We see it that when you're learning halacha, you're learning this is kosher, this is not kosher, this is treifa. Every halacha has many details to it. In this way it's going to be kosher, in this way it's not going to be kosher. That's the broadness of it, the understanding of it. When you have to decide to rule, you need to make a ruling. You can go here, you can go there, all the explanations beautiful, but what's the halacha? What do I do? It's kosher or not? Right, the bottom line. Oimer kosher, blishum tam. He says kosher, or it doesn't, or it says without any reasons. Kosher. Kosher. Or not kosher. So, meaning that's already tzimtzum, that contraction. You're contracting the mind to say just one thing. When it's stanza mikmei shehoyo b'sichel shabes pashtus. Kach yuven lemailo mashus misfiras abino lazeranpin. Eino mei rak derech haloin. Now we can understand. The Sfiras Abino, it only shines through a window. Meaning Bina receives from Ein Sof, Bina receives from Ein Sof, but then Bina gives to Midos, to the emotive attributes. We see many times that the emotive reaction, the emotive reaction of a person is many times according to the understanding that he has. The more understanding he has, the less of. But we said Bina gives the midas through a window, right? The light was contracted. Even though the Ein Sof shines to Bina from the distance, it's nevertheless, it's a lot. That's why it's called Bina, because it's a chivus ano. Bina is broadness. Meaning that so he explains that it's a chova be'etzem. It's the essence of it is broadness, not a. In comparison to others, it's a chova. In general, it's a chova. It's broadness, and that found in Bina. But from Bina, from this broadness to the emotion, to the emotive attribute, the six corners of Zeranpin. It's called Shishak Tov. It's a Zeranpin. When you give now from Bina to the six corners, which is Chesed is the Doim, is the south, Tzofin would be the Gevura, and Tiferes is the west. We are Tiferes in the west Boca, right? Tiferes, splendor, Netzach is up, Hoid is below, Yesoid is the Mizrach. Shezeu bedugmas apsak din befal koshoto umuto v'ofcho. That's really a psak din when you make the final. You're finalizing the emotive attributes is representing by the ultimate psak din that you need to rule whether it's kosher or toher or mutar or the opposite, without explanations and reasonings. That's why it's called Zeranpin, small face. And this is the revelation through a window. Not to allow the light to expand too much. Because you need to know what to do. You need to know the bottom line. Now from Zeranpin, from the emotive attribute to Malchus is only through a nekev, through a hole. It needs to contract even more. Mizeranpin וספירס המלכוס. From זרנפין to מלכוס, כמו שאנו רואים למטו, שכאשר עוד מספלוס המידס, יכול לדבר על פי שכל. Someone is very excited, he cannot express himself logically, eloquently. Why? Because of his palus amidos. That's why many times people hire lawyers, even though they have the best arguments, but they can't express themselves well because they are emotionally connected to the inyan.
I know they say a fool has himself for a lawyer.
Yeah.
Even the best lawyers, when they have a problem, they get another lawyer.
Aval rak shenitztamtzum hamidos, when the midos are contracted and they're not shining b'toikif and they're not potent, the midos are come down. As then he can speak in a normal fashion, in an organized way, an orderly way. That's why from Zeranpin to Malchus it only shines through a nekev, through a hole. Why? Why Zeranpin gives Malchus through a nekev, through a hole? Because what is Malchus representing? Malchus is speech, dibu. In order for me to be able to speak, I cannot have the emotions or going wild.
Right.
So therefore, when the emotive attributes are giving to Malchus, they have to contract themselves in such a way that I can feel it, but I can still speak about it. In order for me to speak, Malchus is dibu pei. It says the king is reigning with his mouth, the speech. He says something. If now Trump will come out and says, I got over it, it's over, it's all good, the Dow goes back up, right? Yeah. Dow went down because he's sick. And at least he's tested positive. I don't know if he's sick, but
he's fine.
It's fine. So it's Hashem tomorrow. He says everything is wonderful.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks. He's gonna sit
I'm
there.
over it. I'm 2 weeks, but I'm whatever.
Right. He's gonna talk. He can talk on the phone.
Yeah, do Zoom, whatever it is.
Yeah, so he can still.
It's all bashert. It's everything. So anyway, point is, if he says something, it changes everything.
Right.
But in order for him to say something, he can't be too emotional about things.
Right.
That's probably the advisors tell him before you go into the big debate. Don't take it personal. If the guy's going to personally attack you,
yeah,
you have to. Otherwise, you're going to get angry. You might say things that you don't want to say.
I think even though he seems more emotional, I don't think he's